Shalom and welcome to Hebrew Bible Secrets with your host, Rabbi Beaton. We are reading today from the book of Mark, starting at chapter 9. Mark chapter 9, verse 1. And he said to them, Verily I say to you, that there be some of them that stand here, which shall not taste of death, till they have seen the kingdom of Yahweh come with power. 2. And after 6 days, Yahshua took with him Kepha and Yaakov and Yehochanan, John, and led them up into a high mountain, apart by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. 3. And his clothes became shining, exceedingly white as snow, so as no launderer on earth could whiten them as much. 4. And there appeared to them Eliyahu, Elijah, with Moshe, Moses, and they were talking with Yahshua. 5. And Kepha answered and said to Yahshua, Master, Adonai, Lord, it is good for us to be here, and let us make 3 tents, one for you, and one for Moshe, Musa, and one for Eliyahu. 6. For he did not know what to say, for they were afraid. 7. And there was a cloud that overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud, saying, This is my beloved Son, hear him. 8. And suddenly, when they had looked round about, they saw no man any more. Rescue Yahushua only with themselves. 9. And as they came down from the mountain, he charged them that they should not tell no man what things they had seen, till the Son of Man was risen from the dead. 10. And they kept that saying with themselves, questioning one another what the rising from the dead should mean. 11. And they asked him, saying, Why do the experts in the Torah say that Eliyahu, Elijah, must come first? 12. And he answered and told them, Eliyahu, Elijah, will indeed come first, and restore all things, and how it is written of the Son of Man, that he must suffer many things, and be despised. 13. But I say to you, that Eliyahu, Elijah, is indeed come, and they have done to him whatever they liked, as it is written of him. 14. And when he came to his disciples, he saw a great multitude about them, and the experts in the Torah questioning with them. 15. And straightway all the people, when they beheld him, were greatly amazed, and running to him, greeted him with shalom. 16. And he asked the experts in the Torah, What are you arguing about? 17. And one of the members of the crowd said, Rabbi, I have brought to you my son, which has a dumb, unclean ruach, spirit, demon. 18. And whenever it seizes him, it throws him down, and he foams at the mouth, and grinds his teeth, and becomes rigid. And I spoke to your disciples, that they should cast him out, and they could not. 19. He answered him and said, O beliefless generation, how long shall I be with ye? How long shall I endure with you? Bring him to me. 20. And they brought him to him. And when he saw him, straightway the unclean spirit, the ruach, demon, seized him, and he fell on the ground and started to foam. 21. And he asked his Av, his father, How long is it since this has happened to him? And he said, Since his childhood. 22. And oftentimes it has cast him into the fire, and into the Mayim, the water, to destroy him. But if you cannot do anything, have compassion on us, and help us. 23. And Yahshua said to him, If you are able, all things are possible to him that believes. 24. And straightway the Av, the father of the child, cried out, and said with tears, I believe, help my unbelief. 25. When Yahshua saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the unclean Ruach, the spirit, the demon, saying to him, "You dumb and deaf Ruach, spirit, I command you, come out of him and enter no more into him." 26. And the unclean Ruach, spirit, demon, cried and convulsed him badly, and came out of him, and he was as one dead, insomuch that many said, "He is dead." 27. But Yahshua took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. 28. And when he had come into the Beth, the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why could we not cast him out?" 29. And he said to them, "This kind can come forth by nothing but by petition." 30. And they departed there and passed through Galilee, and he did not want anyone should know it. 31. For he taught his disciples and said to them, "The Son of Man is given into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and after that he is killed, he shall rise the third day." 32. But they understood not that saying, and were afraid to ask him. 33. And he came to Capharnaum, and being in the Beth, the house, he asked them, "What was it that you disputed among yourselves by the way?" 34. But they held their shalom, for by the way had disputed among themselves who should be the greatest. 35. And he sat down and called the 12 and said to them, "If any man desire to be first, the same shall be last of all, and servant of all." 36. And he took a child and set him in the midst of them. And when he had taken him in his arms, he said to them. 37. Whosoever shall receive one such children in my name receives me, and whosoever shall receive me receive not me, but him that sent me. 38. And Yahuchanan John answered him, saying, Rabbi, we saw one casting out unclean ruach spirits, demons, in your name, and he followed us not, and we forbid him, because he does not follow us. 39. But Yahshua said, Forbid him not, for there is no man who shall do a miracle in my name that can lightly speak evil of me. 40. For he that is not against us is on our side. 41. For whoever shall give ye a cup of Mayim, water to drink in my name, because you belong to Messiah, verily I say to you, he shall not lose his reward. 42. And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe, it is better for him that a millstone was hanged around his neck, and he was cast into the sea. 43. And if your hand offends you, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life maimed, than having two hands to go into Gehenna, hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched. 44. Where the worm dies not, and the fire is not quenched. 45. And if your foot offends you, cut it off. It is better for you to enter maimed into life, than having 2 feet to be cast into Gehenna, into the fire that shall never be quenched. 46. Where the worm dies not. 47. And if your eyes offend you, pluck them out. It is better for you to enter into the kingdom of Elohim with one eye than having 2 eyes to be cast into Gehenna. 48. Where the worm dies not, and the fire is not quenched. 49. For everything shall be destroyed with fire, and every sacrifice shall be seasoned with salt. 50. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its saltiness, what will you season it with? Have salt in yourselves, and have shalom with one another. Okay, that now brings us to the end of chapter 9. So let's go back and have a look at some of the footnotes in chapter 9. So the first footnote we have is in verse 2. And after 6 days, Yeshua took with him Kepha and Yaakov and Yehochanan and John, and led them up into a high mountain. So let's have a look at this word, high mountain. So we have here Mount Tabor in Israel. Okay, so the high mountain was Mount Tabor. Okay, let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 4. And there appeared to them Eliyahu, Elijah, with Moshe, Musa, Moses, and they were talking with Yahushua. Okay, so we have a footnote here for Musa. So let's have a look at this. So it says here, see the footnote on Matthew 17 and 3. So let's have a look at Matthew 17 and 3. So Matthew 17 and 3 reads, and behold, there appeared to them Moshe, Musa, and Eliyahu, Elijah, talking with him. So we have a footnote here for Elijah. So let's have a look at this. So it reads here, these two are seen talking with Yahushua, because in the Drash they signify the true report of the Torah, 1 of Yahweh and of the prophets, 2 of the coming Messianic kingdom, as both the Torah and prophets had spoken about and written about. Okay, so these two, Moshe and Eliyahu, signify the true report of the prophets, of the Torah of Yahweh, and of the coming Messianic kingdom, as both the Torah and the prophets had spoken about and written about. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 7. And there was a cloud that overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, this is my beloved Son, hear him. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Hear him. So we have Matthew 3 and 17. So let's have a look at Matthew 3 and 17 quickly. So Matthew 3 and 17 reads, and lo, a voice from Shamayim, from heaven, saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Okay, so we have a footnote for this is my beloved Son. So let's have a look at this. And it reads, and it came to pass, when Yahweh had come up out of the Mayim, the water, the whole front of the set-apart Ruach, the feminine, descended and rested upon him, and said to him, my son, in all the prophets was I waiting for you, that you should come, and I might rest on you, for you are my rest. You are my first begotten Son, that reigns forever. An ancient copy of the letter of Hebrews that is now lost. Jerome quoted from this in 342 to 420 CE. Origen also quoted from it in 185 to 254 CE. This gospel is lost, but only some quotations exist. Messiah, Volume 3, page 199, by Avi ben Mordecai. The voice is not of Abba, or not of the Abba in the Shamayim in heaven, but of the mother, as stated, and can also be confirmed because it is attested by Yehochanan, John. He wrote his gospel much later than Matthew, and lived the longest from the 12 disciples of Yahushua, of Jesus. John 5:37 attests to this fact that the Abba's voice has never been heard. Okay, so where it says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." So that is the voice of Mother Wisdom, Im Hokmah, the Ruach HaKadosh. Okay, Mother Wisdom is our spiritual mother. Okay, in the Shamayim, in the heavens, with the Father. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which we have in verse 12. And he answered and told him, Eliyahu, Elijah, will indeed come first. So let's have a look at this, indeed come first. So it reads here in the footnote, Elijah will come and restore the Torah as it should be. Okay, so Elijah will come first and restore the Torah as it should be. Okay, so the Father's going to bring Elijah back, and Elijah will obviously start teaching the Torah. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 13. But I say to you that Eliyahu, Elijah, is indeed come, and they have done to him whatever they liked, as it is written of him. Okay, let's have a look at this, as it is written of him. Yehochanan, John, came in the likeness of Eliyahu, but he was killed. Eliyahu will also come and be killed, and then he will be raised after 3.5 days. See Revelation 11 and 9. Okay, let's have a look at Revelation 11 and 9. Revelation 11 and 9, and it reads, And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3.5 days, and shall not allow their dead bodies to be put in graves. Okay, so we have a footnote for be put in graves. Let's read that. So it says here, this is a common Islamic trait, to leave the dead in the street so that they can make an example of these to others. Okay, so this is a common Islamic trait, okay, to leave the bodies for 3 days in the street to make an example to others. Okay, so let's have a look at the next footnote, which is in verse 24. And straightway the Av, the father of the child, cried out and said with tears, I believe, help my unbelief. Okay, so it says here, and said with tears. Let's have a look at this, tears. So we have here the word master does not exist in the text. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 29. And he said to them, this kind can come forth by nothing but by petition. Okay, let's have a look at this word petition. So we have here some earlier manuscripts lack the longer reading by fasting. It's believed it was inserted by the scribe translating this. This is how many other verses contradict the Torah as they are inserted. Okay? So the longer version reading by fasting. Okay? So fasting was obviously a way to help remove the unclean Ruach spirits. Okay? And prayer. Fasting and prayer. Okay, let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 41. For whosoever shall give ye a cup of mayim, water to drink in my name. So let's go to for whosoever. Okay, let's have a look at this. The term here is related to Gentiles. Those who will help the Yehudim will receive a reward in this world. Okay. So those who are not, obviously, keeping Torah or whatever, but are helping the Yehudim, true Israel, B'nai Israel, will receive a reward in this world. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 42. And whosoever shall offend one of these little ones that believe, so let's have a look at this, that believe. So manuscripts miss the reading, believe in me, and have only believe. Typically corrupted reading. Our faith should only be in Yahweh. Okay? So that's another corrupted reading there. So we have the actual wording should be believe in me. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 43. And if your hands offend you, cut it off. It is better for you to enter into life maimed than having two hands to go into Gehenna, hell. Okay, let's have a look at this word hell. So we have here see footnote in Matthew 23:33. So let's have a look at Matthew 23:33 quickly. So Matthew 23:33 reads, You serpents, you generation of vipers, how can you escape the judgment of Gehenna? Okay, let's have a look at we have a footnote here for you serpents. Let's have a look at that quickly. So, serpent is an idiomatic expression to mean cunning or underhanded people. This is directed at the zealots who wanted to murder all the Gentiles and throw them out of Israel. Okay? So, here we're talking about the zealots, the people who wanted to kill the Gentiles and throw them out of Israel. Okay? So the zealots were, they were the diehards. Okay? And they wanted to kill and throw out all of the Gentiles. And we also have another footnote here. New generation of vipers. So let's have a look at this word, vipers. So it says variety of serpents. So more or less, it says see previous footnote. So it's more or less of the first footnote we just read there. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 44. Where the worm dies not, and the fire is not quenched. So let's have a look at this. Not quenched. This verse is missing in the earlier manuscripts, but we have included it for numbering and completeness. Okay? So it's missing in the earlier manuscripts. So let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 45. And if your foot offends you, cut it off. It is better for you to enter maimed into life than having 2 feet to be cast into Gehenna, into the fire that shall never be quenched. So let's have a look at this, never be quenched. So we have here, these are idiomatic expressions and have nothing to do with cutting off hands and feet. Okay? So it's not about cutting off hands and feet. Okay? So let's go to the next footnote, which is in 46, where the worm dies not. So we have important manuscripts omit this verse, and the fire is not quenched. Okay, so the early manuscripts omit this verse, and the fire is not quenched. Okay, so let's go to the next footnote, which is in verse 48, where the worm dies not and the fire is not quenched. So we have here not quenched. Yeshua quotes Isaiah 66:24, when the end judgment is done, the souls of the wicked ones will be destroyed, and there will be cessation of life. The Hebrew word in Isaiah 66:24 shows us these are dead corpses of bones of the dead. They have no life left, so there is no concept here for these ones to be eternally tortured. The highest form of torture, capital punishment, is cessation of life, with no existence and no joy of any future. People are not made to look upon their relations suffering eternal torment. Elohim is not a sadist to do that to others. There is no need for him, as he directly states. He does not want the death of the wicked in Ezekiel 18:23. While the evangelicals are obsessive about everlasting torture, which is reserved only for the rebellious Malachim, the rebellious angels, and a few other select wicked individuals that will eventually also come to cessation. The torment of the devil will continue. The fire that consumes, as in Ezekiel 20:47, would burn and reduce to ashes. It does not leave trees whole to be continuously be burning. Neither do humans. They are consumed and reduced to ashes, where the righteous can view them with pity and without contempt. Sad is the existence of such people. There is no Torah law for an everlasting conscious torture of individuals. Okay, so the next footnote we have after that is in verse 49. For everything shall be destroyed with fire, and every sacrifice shall be seasoned with salt. Okay, let's have a look at this, seasoned with salt. So we have here the meaning salted with fire was wrong, as the verb has two meanings, and the second meaning is more accurate, to destroy. The second part of the verse is what is instructed in Torah, Vayikra, Leviticus 2:13, to season with salt. Okay, so let's have a look at Leviticus quickly. 2:13, to season with salt. Okay, Leviticus 2:13, and every grain of your grain offering shall you season with salt, neither shall you suffer the salt of the covenant of your power to be lacking with your grain offering. With all your offerings you shall offer salt. Okay, so there you have it. With salt we shall give all of our offerings. And that's Leviticus 2:13. Okay, so this brings us now to the end of Mark chapter 9. So I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the other side. This is Rabbi Beaton saying Shalom Shalom. Baruch Shem Kivod Malkuto Leolam Va'ed. Benevolent be the name of his esteemed kingdom, forever and ever and ever. Amen.